everybody. Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed the breakout sessions, but we're going to return to the central question of the conference. Where's the growth? So it's time to move on and return to this topic because it is very, very important. Don't forget to take a look at the BCC's Blueprint for Growth policy document by scanning the QR code or visiting the BCC website. But I'm going to get someone else to introduce our next keynote speaker because, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the BCC's chair, Sarah Howard.
Good afternoon, conference. It's time for our final keynote speaker. We're pleased to have Kemi Badenoch back with us for a second year running. Since she was last with us, she's been elected as leader of the opposition and leader of the Conservative Party. She is the MP for North West Essex since 2017. Kemi served in the last government, most recently as Business and Trade Secretary and Minister for Women and Equalities. She also has ministerial experience in the Treasury, the Department for Education and the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. Before entering politics, she studied computer systems engineering and law. After working as a software engineer and systems analyst, she joined Coutts as an associate director. So please join me in welcoming to the stage the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking to the British Chambers of Commerce again. When I spoke here last year during the election, I talked about the choice between two competing visions for economic growth. One of them was that government knows best, and the other that business knows best how to create growth. My vision, the Conservative vision, is that it is not government that creates growth, it is business. But you will all know that we lost that election. And there were many reasons for that loss. But one of those reasons was that we were no longer trusted. It's quite clear that we got enough things wrong during our time in government that people wanted change. And we got that change. I was very surprised. Actually, I wasn't that surprised when I heard the Prime Minister speaking to you this morning. He spent a lot of time criticizing the previous government. That is what politicians do. So now that I'm here, I'd like us instead to take a long, hard look at the country after 12 months of Labour in office. Since July, we've had inflation higher, unemployment up, growth halved. I mean, this is change, but it is change for the worse. And it didn't have to happen. Let's start with the jobs tax. That rise in national insurance is killing jobs. It is making it impossible for businesses to grow. And then we see that family businesses, which form the backbone of many of our communities, have been hit with increased taxes. More of the next generation will have no alternative but to close rather than continue running their family firms. Family Business UK warned this could lead to over 125,000 job losses. That is a lot. And instead, we've created 27 new quangos that are also creating more bureaucracy and more paperwork for businesses. But this isn't just about statistics and statements and government changes. This matters because it is about real people. It is people and businesses who are hurting when government is making wrong decisions. The company that never takes on more staff because it's just too difficult. The person who doesn't get the opportunity to buy their own house because they don't make enough money. Or the apprentice who never gets the right start in life because the government didn't get its act together. And we can't let that happen. So today I want to talk about our economic crisis, but also how to fix it with jobs, jobs, jobs for all of those people and businesses who are affected. And I want to talk about how we answer a fundamental question about what our country is for. A question which this government should be answering, but has failed to do. A question which we won't be able to duck forever, none of us here. And that question is whether we are for the makers or for the takers. whether we offer those who work hard, who get on, who build businesses, who make things happen, whether it's a plumber or a nurse, or those who don't. And I know whose side I'm on. But let me first talk about the biggest political issue of this week, welfare. Our debt interest is well over £100 billion a year. Welfare spending is out of control. The state is bloated, productivity has flatlined, and the economy is stuck in first gear. Our country is living beyond its means. We are spending more than we're earning, and it means the cost of living crisis for working people is getting worse and worse. We need a totally different approach, one that ensures that things are easier for the makers, the people who work hard, create wealth and jobs, and deliver frontline public services, because currently this country has too many people who are taking, whether it is those who sit at home with the curtains drawn while others go out to work, or those who skip the queue and arrive here illegally only to be given privileged access to social housing, the NHS, and our generous welfare system. Yet, despite having a supermajority in Parliament, the Prime Minister is in the fight of his life. He is trying to save some of the government's welfare changes, changes that don't even cut the overall welfare budget. They only slightly slow down the rate of increase. And that is because his MPs are too scared to make difficult decisions. But we have to make difficult decisions if we're going to sort our economy. Britain needs real welfare reform if we're to incentivize takers to become makers, if we're to get people into jobs. By 2030, 1 in every £4 raised through income tax will be spent on health and disability benefits alone. That's not even touching the other benefits. That's more than the entire UK defence budget. And in an increasingly dangerous world, that is simply unsustainable. We need a fundamental rethink about which conditions should qualify for long-term financial support. And I was shocked to hear that the majority of new disability claims in this country are now for low-level conditions like anxiety. Research published today by the Centre for Social Justice shows that if we save and focus on supporting those with those really severe conditions, we save £9 billion a year from the welfare bill by 29-30. That's where we should be focusing our efforts. That is a serious amount of money, and we can transform so many lives at the same time. But by focusing on treatments to manage those less severe conditions, we can also get more people back into work. That's the crucial thing. And I know it won't be easy. And in fact, I think things are likely to get worse before they get better. Because with such a large parliamentary rebellion at the moment, I'm expecting U-turns on other things, like the two-child benefit cap. That means more spending, more borrowing. And protest parties like Reform are doing very well in the polls because they're promising even more benefits. The fact is, no one, except my party, the Conservatives, is talking about reducing welfare and job creation. And under my leadership, this is new leadership, the Conservative Party will not shy away from confronting the tough questions that need answering and, more importantly, providing the solutions. That is the role of a constructive opposition. And when business leaders, like the CEO of Currys, for example, say government policy is actively working against job creation, we should take note. Business leaders tell me that Labour's employment rights bill will make things worse, that the bill could cost the UK up to £5 billion a year in lost economic growth. That bill is 300 pages of red tape, which nobody running a business asked for. And we know who will pay the price. It'll be young people looking for their first break. It will be those who are left behind because hiring them becomes too risky and too expensive. And it will be smaller businesses, those who cannot afford a legion of HR officers and compliance officers. They're the people who are going to pay the price. But I'm not just here to talk about problems. Everybody can do that. We can all point out problems. You want solutions. So what will we do? I have said that we will remove Labour's red tape. We will remove the ability to strike with zero warning, something businesses cannot prepare for. We will remove the trade union right to roam in business premises. We will remove the new Fair Work Agency, another quango that is designed to hound British businesses, even when no employee has raised a complaint. How did we get to a point where a government felt it could impose these measures on business? We have forgotten a fundamental truth. that every pound spent by government, every benefit paid, it all comes from the makers. Makers who work every hour they can to make ends meet, provide for their families, and keep businesses and public services afloat. Makers are the foundation of our prosperity, and we are allowing too many people to become takers, not makers. It has led to a dangerous shift in thinking. Too many people now see business as something to extract from rather than invest in. They want to tax wealth before it's even created. They've forgotten that every job, every innovation, every export success comes from people in rooms like this who are taking risks. This is a crisis, and the question before us is simple. Who has credible solutions? And I know many of you will be skeptical of politicians standing here making promises, but look at who we are, not just what we say. My Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, built and sold a successful international business. My Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, he chaired a FTSE 100 company. Across our party, you will find people, entrepreneurs, who've taken risks, navigated regulations, and created jobs. And for too long, we've been caught in a loop where politicians don't want to make tough choices. Everybody wants to know how their problem will be solved this week, but who is securing the 10-year horizon? We are at a critical moment. People are feeling real pain. Cost of living, high bills, low pay, high taxes, they need a way out. But the crisis isn't just in the numbers, it's in the mindset. Just look at the spending review 2 weeks ago. Gone is the political imagination to even consider a future where the public don't hand a greater and greater share of their hard-earned money for the state to give them just little improvement in return. And too many in politics think growth comes from government, from regulators, central planners. I don't, I never have. There is a gap in the market for a serious centre-right plan, one that understands the power of the private sector to transform lives, one that raises aspiration and delivers higher living standards. And that is the difference between us and our opponents. Because Labour see business as something to regulate and tax, Reform want to turn back the clock and nationalise utilities, we see you, business, as partners in building Britain's future. You know when spending isn't delivering value. Government needs to know the same. This is about running government like you run your businesses, focused on outcomes, not process. And I've seen your regulatory burden firsthand. I was the business secretary. I saw what people were complaining about day after day, the endless forms, the duplicated reporting, the compliance costs that add nothing to productivity. And when I was business secretary, I cut it back. And under my leadership of the Conservative Party, I promise we will do even more. You tell me you can't find staff while we're paying people not to work. That ends under my leadership. And yes, we will cut taxes, but we will do it responsibly. And I say to all those people who worry about jobs, about growth, about public spending, you can't sit back and hope it will sort itself out. You need to speak up. You need to support policies that back enterprise, and you need to challenge those who want more and more state control. Don't just wait for politicians to do it. You need to get on the pitch too. And this isn't just about tax rates and red tape. It's about the country we want to be. Not a Britain of committees and consultations, but one where people have the freedom to build, to create, to grow. So bring us your ideas. We're in opposition. Now is the time for us to get them. All of you who came into my office when I was in government knew it's very hard to change when you're already in government. The train is already on its way. Get in while we're still at the station. We want to hear your priorities. We want to hear your solutions. And that is why I am personally inviting all of you here to participate in this year's Business and SME Day at Conservative Party Conference. I promise you it is going to be fun. But more importantly, it's an opportunity to build together an exciting new policy programme to unleash the potential of business to transform the UK. You don't need to be a Conservative to participate in Business Day. You just need to want what is best for our country. And you can trust me because of my personal record, that when it came down to it, I stood up for business in government, not just in opposition. So back us, tell your customers, speak out, put your name to the cause. We can't turn this country around with polite applause or careful silence. We need your voice. We need your expertise. We need your determination. We all know, all of us in this room know, we can't work half the year for the tax man, while at the same time, half the country doesn't work at all. If we're going to turn those takers into makers, the private sector is going to be absolutely crucial to delivering this. Because no government bureaucracy has ever created long-term wealth. No politician alone can build lasting prosperity. That comes from business, from innovation, from risk takers and job creators. It comes from you. Thank you. On this one?
You go.
The other one. Okay.
You sit on the right one.
Yes. The appropriate seat.
Quick couple of questions from me, and then we're going to have a couple of questions from the floor. We don't have too much time. So, let me get this right. Given the current economic pressures, significant public debt, if you were in government, you would face either having to raise taxes, cut spending, or borrow more. What's it going to be?
So, there are more choices than that. It is not government that creates growth. This is one of the things that we've been saying. Part of the reason why we're where we are is because the first thing that Labour did was put taxes on business and give money to the public sector unions. We need to start by allowing business to create jobs. We need to start by allowing business to grow. That is where the growth comes from. So those are the policies that we need to get out. We can't pretend that we're just locked in a loop where all we have to do is borrow, raise taxes. We do need to cut a lot of spending, that is for sure. But we need to cut the spending because it is unsustainable. We are not living within our means. £100 billion every year above what we earn. £100 billion every year on just the interest on the debt. That is not our money. That is our children's money. It is not fair on them for us to spend it all now on welfare and then leave them to pick up the tab.
So you could borrow more?
No, I didn't say borrow more. Look at what the debt interest is. We borrowed at a time when there was COVID. We spent, several £100 billion paying people to be at home. It was a pandemic. We didn't expect it. Labour doesn't have that kind of problem. So you borrow when you're borrowing to deal with those sorts of situations or to invest. But right now, we need to grow. Borrowing by government does not create growth. So this is the thing that we just need to get out of the mindset of. That government doing this and government doing that is what's going to fix the problem. We have to unleash the animal spirits of business.
All right. Many people here, they have concerns about parts of the Employment Rights Bill. Would you scrap the whole thing?
There's a lot in the Employment Rights Bill. It's going to be a huge problem. This bill was brought to me when I was business secretary by the usual suspects, and I said no to it. There is nothing in it that I believe is going to improve business in this country. As far as I'm concerned,
absolutely nothing.
What we need to do, many of the things that are in those bills are things that people have lobbied for. We did so much when we were in government. Shared parental leave, additional paternity leave, bereavement leave. We have brought in more rights than ever before. What they are doing with making it nearly compulsory to join a trade union, by the right to roam. These are not things that are going to improve business. Business is crying out for help, that they have too many regulations, that there's too much red tape, there are too many taxes, burden after burden. So we do not support the Employment Rights Bill, and I have said what we're going to repeal in it. We don't want that bill. That is not Conservative policy. And when we were in government, we tended to accept the previous Blair legacy of what Labour had done. We're not going to do that again because there are many problems that were baked in there. The Employment Rights Bill is going to cost this country loads of money, and that's one of the deregulation actions that we can take that will lift the burden off business.
All right. Let's open it up to the floor because I'm conscious of the time. Some questions. I've got a woman over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Forster, GB News. Questions swirling about the Prime Minister's authority. But today you accused him of evading PMQs because he was at the G7 and NATO. One of your own MPs has been openly critical of you today and saying, maybe he might get the whip withdrawn. Are you going to do that? And also, are there real questions about your own authority?
Catherine, thank you very much for that fantastic question, which I'm sure the entire room is keen to hear the answer about whether I'm removing the whip from someone for asking a question. No. I love answering questions. The Prime Minister does not. It is perfectly possible to move PMQs to Thursday. There's no reason why it has to be on Wednesday. We used to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but he doesn't want to have PMQs. And the reason why is because he doesn't like answering questions. Anybody who's ever watched PMQs will see that he doesn't answer anything. He didn't answer any of the questions that I asked him in the statement that he had on the G7 and NATO. And the fact is, if I have an MP criticising me for criticising the Prime Minister, then we need to ask, what is the point of being in opposition if you cannot point out where the government is going wrong? That is my job. We are here to hold the government to account. And there are too many people out there who think that the Labour Party and the Conservative Party have been hand in glove in causing problems for this country. Me cozying up to the Prime Minister when I think he's made mistakes is not the way for us to win back public trust. We need to show that we're on the side of the people out there, not just having a cozy parliamentary session. And I will make sure that every time I'm standing at the dispatch box, I am standing for the people out there, those makers and takers, who want to know how the economy is getting back on track.
Okay, another question. Someone over there.
Peter Foster from the Financial Times. You said in the House yesterday that the welfare budget was far too high, and you said the same again today. Can you tell us in specific terms, not general terms, specific terms, which welfare benefits you propose to cut in order to bring that benefit budgets down?
The problem goes beyond specific benefits. We have people who, as I said in my speech, are now claiming disability claims for things like anxiety. That is not what welfare was designed for. We also, for example, during COVID, had people having their assessments done remotely over the telephone from home. I do not think it is possible for you to properly assess a lot of conditions remotely. That hasn't changed. And since then, we have seen an extra 1 million people claiming some specific benefits. That's what we're talking about. I believe that the system is being gamed. There are people claiming it for conditions that probably shouldn't be getting welfare, and also people who don't have conditions at all, who have worked out that you can exploit the system. We need to start cutting the welfare budget down. We cannot be in a situation where 1 in 4 people in the country is registered as disabled. It's extraordinary. And we are the only party that is talking about this. We are the only party that is saying something has gone seriously wrong since COVID. Let's just try and get it back to where it was before COVID. The question shouldn't be, why are you doing this? The question should be, why haven't we done this all along? And we have 100 and something Labour MPs who are too scared to make a change that's not even going to cut the welfare budget, just slows down the rate of increase. That is a real problem. We need to make sure that we look after the people who are severely disabled. Absolutely. That is what welfare is there for. Those people who have significant conditions that mean they cannot go to work. So we don't even think that what Labour is doing is going to get people into work. Their impact assessment says it's not going to get more people into work. So what's the point of it? It is a messy bill. We've said we will support them if they can fix those problems, get people back into work, cut the budget, and not bring more tax rises. But somebody somewhere has to stand up and say, enough. We're not living within our means. We have to fix this, otherwise we're going to destroy our children's future.
Let's venture over this side. Gentleman over there. Thank you. Yep. Right in front of you, there.
Hi, Will Evans-Jones from the West and North Yorkshire Chamber of Commerce. I predominantly cover Bradford. It's a business conference, right? Kemi, you walked through number 10. What 3 things are you going to do to benefit business?
So I will do
pretty straightforward.
Thank you. So I will do the things that business has been telling me it really, really needs help with. One of them, as I said in my speech, is cut red tape. We've talked about some of the new things that have come in that we will cut, the problems with the Employment Rights Bill. This was something I did even as business secretary. Loads of audit regulations that would have strangled businesses, just stopped them from happening in the first place. We need to make sure that people can take risks, that people don't feel like we're trying to create a zero-risk environment where absolutely nothing is allowed to happen. So that would be one of the first things. We also need to bring taxes down. Businesses tell me that the tax burden is so high that they're not able to employ people because they're just paying so much in tax. We've seen unemployment rise every single month since Labour came in. And everybody says it's the same thing, that the national insurance rise was just too much. You add on additional changes with minimum wage thresholds and so on, it was just far too much for them to deal with. And the third thing I would look at is on the skills side, that what are we doing to make sure that we're able to keep up with the rest of the world? We have to make sure that we don't fall back. So having a proper skills agenda across the board at the high end and also at the medium end is going to be absolutely critical. And I'm very worried about what's happened with the apprenticeship program. We are seeing fewer and fewer apprentices coming through, many because, and this is happening to many of them because, the cost of employing them has become too much, even though they're some of the cheapest people in the country to employ. We have to make sure that we fix that. That is a new problem that is going to have an impact in about 5 to 10 years' time in terms of this, the skills base, especially of our young people. Those are the 3 things I do.
Okay, one more question. Okay, someone over there. Thank you.
Hello, I'm definitely not a journalist, so this should be a normal question.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said that.
Just a small business owner. How are you planning on rebuilding the trust in the English population or the UK population and possibly stopping what I would consider to be a knee-jerk reaction at the next election?
So this is one of the biggest challenges that we have as a Conservative Party. After 14 years in government, everybody has something that we did that they're annoyed about, or a particular prime minister. Whether it was when we were in coalition or even during the hung parliament when we didn't have the majority, the fact is we were in office throughout that period. And the reason why people stopped trusting us was because we made a lot of promises that we didn't deliver. We said we were going to cut taxes. That didn't happen. We said we were going to lower immigration. That didn't happen. In fact, the opposite happened. And that's when people break trust with you. It's almost like the end of a relationship. That's where we are right now. If you are to rebuild trust, you need to show that you have changed. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do now. Show that the Conservative Party has changed, that we've learned the lessons of the past, we've acknowledged the mistakes, immigration being one, and then coming out with new policies that show that we're moving in a different direction. So I've toughened up our immigration policies, for example. Things like the conveyor belt to British citizenship is too easy. We're not deporting foreign criminals. It has an impact on law and order. One of the reasons why housing has become more expensive is not just the asset bubble, and it's not just because we're not building up. Both those things are true. But it's also because demand has skyrocketed. So all of these things are connected. And what I've said is that I'm not going to just make random announcements. A policy without a plan is just an announcement. We need to have proper policy, proper plans that explain how we will get things done. Because if we don't do that, we will end up, like Labour, winning an election by making all the promises and then getting there and not knowing how to fix the crises which we have, including the economic crisis. So it means having a proper plan. That will be one on the economy, on migration, on law and order. Those are the 3 top things that people talk about. Explaining how we're going to deliver hope for the next generation, being aspirational, and being a little bit more optimistic as well. Sometimes people started talking to us as if we're the pensioners' party. We're not the pensioners' party. We're the party for everyone. We're the party for the makers, the people who build things, grow things, produce things. That's how we're going to create wealth and prosperity in our country. And we just have to be honest. We have to tell the truth. That is the way we will win back trust. A lot of politicians will go out and say all sorts of things. But I believe that if we acknowledge those mistakes, tell the truth, show that we've got proper plans, and that we're serious, then yes, we can do that.
All right. We're going to end it there. Leader of the Opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the closing phase, really, of the conference today. So please welcome to the stage Sarah Howard, Chair of the British Chambers of Commerce.
We are coming to the end of another brilliant global annual conference, and what a day it's been. As always, our conference has been a fantastic opportunity to hear from key policymakers, to discuss both the challenges and the opportunities for business, and crucially for us all to meet. After all, relationships are fundamental to successful business. A day like today reminds us all about the power of the Chamber network. We are a network of 51 chambers across the UK, representing over 50,000 businesses across every sector of the UK economy, and more than 6 million workers. And then we have 70 British international chambers across all continents of the world. We are a truly global network. We are the only business representative organisation that has local roots, national influence and global reach. And it works. It works because our members trust us. It works because we speak with evidence, not just emotion. And it works because we reflect the reality, what's happening on the ground, in boardrooms, on shop floors, and in industrial estates, from Aberdeen to Ashford and Sydney to Paris. We are the business organisation able to speak up for British business of every size, of every sector, in every part of the UK and around the world. We are truly grassroots to government. That's why businesses want to be part of our network, and that's why policymakers want to engage with us like they have today. Today's event has demonstrated this perfectly. It's been about being honest about the challenges, but also optimistic about the huge opportunities of tomorrow, as we spent the day asking one fundamental question: where is the growth? We heard directly from the Prime Minister as he launched the government's new trade strategy, an ambitious plan to unlock £5 billion for UK business. He announced an expansion of UK export finances capacity to £80 billion, bringing faster, more targeted support that delivers real benefits for our firms. We're proud to have worked to shape this vital piece of policy. But we will be holding the government's feet to the fire to make sure it is delivered. Next, we heard from Siobhan Haviland, our Director General. She welcomed the UK's progress on trade deals, but she also struck a note of caution, urging government to reconsider business taxes that are dampening confidence and costing jobs. Our growth panel explored the transformational potential of AI to level the playing field, especially for SMEs. And remarks from Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, reminded us of the persistent global uncertainty UK businesses are navigating. But he also struck a note of optimism, highlighting the entrepreneurialism of businesses that he's met across the country. And let me also take a moment to reflect on the insights shared across our breakout sessions. From digital revolution to global Britain, one message rang clear. Growth in the UK will only be achieved if we embrace innovation, invest in our people, and empower local leadership. And finally, we welcomed the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, who spoke of the need to unlock growth across the economy. Today's discussions reflect a growing sense of momentum. With the right policies in place, we can deliver the growth, jobs, and prosperity that British business demands. One of the real joys of my role is spending so much time with chambers and their members, both in the UK and internationally. Each chamber is unique, but we are all joined in our desire to grow the UK economy. Wherever I go, I'm in awe of the commitment, energy, and enthusiasm of our teams. We really do help business connect, succeed, and grow 24/7. If I can focus for a moment on two issues you always raise with me, and which are two issues I'm absolutely passionate about. These two issues will help us drive forward growth, 100%. Firstly, trade. Trade is a key thread that runs through our chamber network. It's core to what our network does day in, day out. Only 10%